Religious beliefs. Man cannot lead a good life or achieve anything beneficial for humanity and human civilization without having beliefs, ideals, and faith. Any human being who does not have ideals and faith will be a completely selfish person, who sees nothing but his interests, or will be an indecisive, wavering person who does not know his duties in life or his moral and social values. Man constantly faces moral and social problems and must respond to them. If a human being is associated with a particular school of thought, ideology, and belief, then his position is clear. But if a human being is not disciplined by a particular school of thought, ideology, and belief, he will constantly be indecisive, and at times will be pulled in various directions. He will become a purposeless fairy. Yes, there is undoubtedly a link between the need to combine a school of thought with an ideology. What we must note is that it is only religion that can make a man a true believer. It is only religion that enables him to overcome selfishness and egoism through faith and ideology, and to create a kind of piety and conviction in individuals, with which they fully accept even the minor issues of their ideology. At the same time, a human being will embrace his faith with such esteem and veneration that life without it will be absurd and futile. He will cling to it with fervor and devotion. Strong religious convictions cause a man to fight against his natural individual tendencies or to sacrifice his life and prestige for his beliefs. This becomes possible only if man regards his beliefs as sacred and seizes absolute control over himself. It is only the power of religion that can give sanctity to beliefs and make man governed by them. Sometimes not because of religious beliefs, but under psychological pressure, hatred, revenge, or reaction to oppression and cruelty, people sacrifice their lives, property, and honor. Many examples can be found in this world. But the difference between religious ideas and non-religious ideas is this: wherever religious beliefs give sanctity to ideas, sacrifices are made completely voluntarily and naturally. There is a difference between what is done voluntarily and out of conviction, which is a kind of choice, and what is done under psychological pressure. Secondly, if man's worldview is merely materialistic, based exclusively on the essence of perception, then all humanitarian and societal ideals become contradictory to the essence of perception that man observes about the universe. What a sensory perspective produces is egoism, not idealism. If idealism is not based on a worldview whose logical result is the idea, then it will not move beyond illusion. That is, man has created a world apart from the realities that manifest with his illusions, and is satisfied with this alone. If idealism originated from religion, then it would be based on a kind of perception whose logical outcome is the following social ideals and ideas. Religious belief is a suitable link between man and ideals. On the other hand, it is a kind of separation from the world and results in the creation of an imaginary world for oneself that is not at all supported by the real world. Religious belief does not dictate a set of duties that go against the natural inclinations of human beings, but it changes the perspective of the world in their eyes. It introduces factors that are different from the perceivable factors of this world. It transforms a gloomy, mechanical, and materialistic world into a vibrant and conscious world. Religious beliefs change their interpretation of the world and creation. William James, the great American philosopher and psychologist of the 20th century, believed that the religiously interpreted world is not materialistic. It has another expression, a natural order that differs in places from that which belongs to the materialistic world. Moreover, there is a natural tendency in every human being towards certain truths and holy forms. Human beings are the center of a series of non-materialistic potential talents and tendencies that can be developed further. Human tendencies are not inherently materialistic, and spiritual tendencies are not simply instilled and achieved. The truth of this statement is supported by science. In this regard, William James argued, insofar as our ideal impulses originate in this region, and most of them do, given that we find them controlling us in ways we cannot express. Since they are manifest, these tendencies must be trained, and if they are not properly trained and properly utilized, they will take a wrong direction and will result in terrible corruptions, such as idol worship, the worship of man, nature, and 1,000 other objects of idolatry. All of which are the result of deviating from the straight path. Eric Fromm believes that there is no one who does not need religion and does not need rules to guide him and regulate his love and interests. It may be that he is not aware of religious beliefs as distinct from his total beliefs and, contrary to that, thinks that he has no religion and regards his love and interest in something non-religious, such as power, prosperity, and happiness, as signs of his interest in practical events and by his opportunities. The issue is not whether or not a person adheres to a religion, but what religion he or she practices. What this psychologist means is that humans cannot live without sanctifying and worshiping something. For example, if a person does not believe in the Almighty God, then that person will regard something else as the ultimate truth and will make it his religion and worship it. Since man cannot help but have an ideology and belief, and since religious belief is the only belief that can truly influence man and satisfy his natural inclination towards the truth except embracing religious belief. The Holy Quran is the first book to regard religious belief as a kind of harmony with divinity. It also considers religious faith as an element of human nature. The effects and benefits of religion. Although the effects of religious belief have been explained to some extent in our discussion so far, for us to fully understand the actual benevolent effects of this valuable treasure of spiritual life, we will discuss this issue in detail. Religious faith causes tremendous positive effects, in terms of its ability to create happiness and joy or improve social relations, or reduce or even eliminate previously unavoidable difficulties in the world system. Now, I will explain the effects of religious belief in 3 parts. First, happiness and joy. The first effect of religious belief in terms of its ability to create happiness and joy is optimism in looking at the universe. This influence presents a creation as having blessed, evolutionary and rich goals and naturally gives humans an optimistic outlook toward the whole of creation and the rules that govern it. The believer's position in this world is that of a man living in a country who regards the laws, rules, and organizations of that country as right and just. He also believes in the goodwill of the country's leaders. He naturally finds a basis for his advancement and improvement as well as that of others. He believes that the only thing holding him back is his laziness and inexperience or the laziness and inexperience of other supposedly diligent and responsible human beings. In the view of such a man, the responsibility for any obstacles that arise lies within himself and not in the organizations and systems of the country. He knows that he and his fellow human beings are also responsible for any shortcomings that occur because they have not fulfilled their obligations and responsibilities. This naturally inspires them to work with optimism. But a disbeliever in this world is like a person living in a country who considers the laws and institutions of that country to be corrupt and cruel, while he has no choice but to accept them. Such an individual is full of contradictions and hatred. He never thinks of bettering himself, but rather thinks that since the entire universe is unsuitable and full of cruelty, tyranny, and dishonesty, then what can an honest and insignificant human being like himself do? Such an individual never enjoys his life, as this world is always a terrible prison for him. Yes, it is man's faith that expands his spirituality and saves him from depression. The second effect of religious belief in terms of its ability to create joy and happiness is the enlightenment of the heart. When man, because of his religious faith, finds the universe brightened for him by the divine light of truth, such enlightenment enlightens his spirit, acting as a torch that lights his consciousness. In contrast, to a disbeliever, the world appears absurd, dark, incomprehensible, and void of insight and clarity. Hence, such a human being is imprisoned in the darkness of the world of his creation. The third effect of religious belief in terms of its ability to create joy and happiness is the expectation of good consequences from good deeds. Viewed from a materialistic point of view, the universe appears indifferent to man. It does not matter which way they act, Whether they act in the direction of right or wrong, justice or oppression, honesty or deception. The outcome of their actions depends on only one thing, and that is the sincerity of their efforts. For the believer, the universe is not indifferent to the efforts of these two groups. The universe does not react equally to both, rather, the divine system supports those who strive for virtue, truth, integrity, justice, and goodwill. The fourth effect of religious belief in terms of its ability to create happiness and joy is peace of mind. It is human nature to seek happiness for oneself. He feels immense joy at the thought of having attained this state, whereas the thought of a bleak and failing future disturbs him and fills him with anxiety and worry. The causes of happiness are effort and faith in the conditions of his environment. A student's success depends on two factors: his own effort and hard work, on the one hand, and the school, i.e. the encouragement and effectiveness of the school leaders, on the other. If a diligent student has no faith in the school where he studies, if he has no faith in the teachers who teach him or give him grades at the end of the academic year, and if he restlessly imagines unfair treatment, then his entire year will be filled with anxiety, torment, and fear. A man's duty to himself is clear. He does not worry, for anxiety and fear are caused by uncertainty and delusion. Man is not in doubt about what pertains to himself. What draws man to uncertainty and doubt is his duty toward the unexplained universe. Are good deeds beneficial? Are honesty and trustworthiness not beneficial? Is it possible that one who has made an effort and fulfilled his responsibility will have a bad outcome? This is what causes anxiety in its most terrible form. People who have established a connection with this universe through religious faith are given a mandate and confidence. The anxiety and fear in dealing with this universe are lifted and removed, replaced with comfort and ease. This is why we say that one of the effects of religious faith is peace of mind. Another result of religious faith, viewed in terms of its ability to create happiness, is a range of happiness referred to as spiritual pleasure. Humans have two types of happiness. One is related to the senses, which is created by some kind of contact between one's sensory perceptions and external objects, such as the happiness obtained through taste by the tongue and through the sense of touch by physical contact. The other type of happiness is related to the depths of the human spirit and consciousness, which has nothing to do with any particular bodily organ. They are happiness that does not result from contact with external objects. This type of happiness is acquired by man due to his generosity and helpfulness or from the popularity and accolades he has gained, as well as from the success he has had in his childhood. It has nothing to do with the senses and is not directly influenced by external factors. Spiritual happiness is not only stronger than materialistic happiness but also lasts longer. The happiness of worshipping Allah and the happiness of prayer belong to this type of happiness. Sufis, who worship Allah, derive immense pleasure from their prayers. In religious terms, they speak of the sweetness of religion. Religion has a sweetness that surpasses all other sweetnesses. Spiritual happiness increases if actions such as seeking knowledge, generosity, helpfulness, success, and victory stem from religious belief, and whatever is done for the sake of Allah is in the realm of worship. Second, the function of religion in social relations. Humans, like other living beings, are born as social beings. An individual is unable to satisfy his own needs. Life must be shared with others who participate in all tasks and creativity, and a kind of division of labor must be established among them, as is the case with other living creatures, such as bees, although there is one essential difference between them. Namely, work among non-human beings is instinctive and imposed by nature, in which the possibility of denial or transgression does not exist. Humans, on the other hand, are free-will beings and perform it freely as a duty and responsibility. In other words, non-human living beings are under the influence of innate social instincts. Human needs are social without being governed by instinct. Human social instincts are like a series of drives. They exist in the human subconscious and they must be instilled through education. A healthy social life is one in which individuals respect the rights of other individuals, respect rules and restrictions, regard justice as sacred, and offer love to others. They want for others what they want for themselves. They do not want what they do not want for themselves. They trust and believe in each other. The guarantee for their mutual trust is spiritual values. Each individual shows the same benevolence and friendliness, both in his or her personal life and in community life. They help each other without a trace of greed. They move together against oppression and tyranny and do not allow dictators and agents of Satan to create tyranny and corruption. They venerate moral values and fellowship and unite as members of a single body. Is there anything else that surpasses religion in valuing virtue, holding justice sacred, softening one's heart towards one's neighbor, creating mutual trust between individuals, causing benevolence and compassion to take root in human consciousness, honoring moral values and creating the urge to step up against cruelty and uniting everyone as members of a single body? All the glories of humanity that sparkle like stars in the sky, ever achieved in the history of human adventure, stem from religious faith. Third, an antidote for mental distress. Human life, whether we like it or not, contains sufferings, sorrows, failures, losses, bitterness, and disappointments just as much as it offers joy, sweetness, achievement, and success. Many of life's sorrows can be prevented, or even eliminated, through desperate efforts. Man is obliged to struggle alongside nature and turn its bitterness into sweetness. However, some events in this world cannot be prevented and cannot be eradicated, such as aging. Humans, whoever they are, grow older and older. The wax of life gradually melts away. The consequences of old age, such as weakness, infirmity, and other effects hinder his activities. Moreover, the thought of leaving the world, family, and friends, causes people to suffer in various forms. Religious faith creates in man the strength to endure and transforms bitterness into sweetness. A believer knows that everything in this world falls within a certain pattern of rules, and if he reacts to bitterness appropriately, then God Almighty will give him another way even if it seemed impossible before. Since old age does not mean the end of life, and a believing individual always occupies himself with acts of closeness and prayer to Allah, the life of old age becomes even more blissful than the period of youth. The thought of death looks different in the eyes of a believer than in the eyes of a person without religion. For a believer, death does not mean the end of life but merely a process of transition from the temporal world to the eternal world, from the finite world to the infinite world. Death is a transition from the world of action and planting to the world of results and harvest. This is why such an individual can relieve his fear of death with efforts of good deeds, or righteous deeds as expressed in religious terminology. It is obvious to psychologists that most mental illnesses caused by psychological damage and bitterness of life are found among non-religious people. Religious people, depending on how committed they are to their religion, are often protected from such illnesses. Hence, one of the consequences of contemporary life stemming from the absence of religious faith is the increase in nervous and psychological diseases.